There is only one battle in history where an army was defeated by men who were already technically dead. August 6th, 1915. On the Eastern Front, 7,000 German soldiers are calmly marching toward a Russian fortress. At the Haubom, they are completely relaxed. A massive cloud of toxic gas has just swept through the enemy trenches. And from a medical standpoint, there should be no survivors. But what is about to emerge from that poisoned fog will terrify the Germans so deeply that they will flee in sheer panic, trampling each other just to escape. This isn't a horror movie. This is the real documented historical event known as the Attack of the Dead Men. To understand how this nightmare unfolded, we look at Osowiec Fortress in modern-day Poland. For months, Russian soldiers had fiercely defended this strategic choke point. Frustrated by their inability to break through, the German command decided to stop using explosive shells and deploy a new, invisible weapon: chlorine gas. At 4 a.m., 30 gas batteries opened simultaneously. A dense, dark green cloud, 30 feet high, creeps silently toward the Russian lines. Chlorine gas doesn't just choke you. When it mixes with the moisture in the lungs and eyes, it creates hydrochloric acid. It literally burns you from the inside out. The environmental devastation is absolute. Leaves turn black. Grass dies instantly. And even the soldiers' brass equipment oxidizes to a sickly green. The Russian defenders have no gas masks. They desperately wrap their faces in rags soaked in water or urine. But it's practically useless. In minutes, the front line becomes an open-air graveyard. Convinced the fortress is empty, the 7,000 German infantrymen advance to simply clear the rubble. But as they reach the first trenches, the impossible happens. A young Russian officer, Sub-Lieutenant Vladimir Kotlinski, has survived. Coughing up blood, he rallies the remnants of his company. They are barely 100 men. Their lungs are dissolving. They know they have only minutes to live. Yet Kotlinski orders them to fix bayonets and charge. What the German vanguard sees next shatters every shred of human rationality. Emerging from the toxic fog are figures straight out of hell. The Russians have their faces wrapped in bloody rags, their skin peeling from severe chemical burns, their eyes blinded and bleeding. They are literally coughing up pieces of their own lung tissue. Yet they are sprinting forward, screaming with whatever breath they have left. The psychological impact is devastating. The German infantry is entirely convinced they are fighting reanimated corpses. Panic spreads like a virus. 7,000 heavily armed, uninjured men turn around and run for their lives, tearing themselves apart on their own barbed wire just to escape 100 dying men. The charge succeeds. The line is saved. Kotlinski dies that very evening from the gas. A few weeks later, the Russian command strategically evacuates the fortress anyway, making the sacrifice tactically irrelevant. But true history isn't just about shifting borders. It's about what happens when the human mind is pushed over the absolute edge. The defenders of Osowiec weren't zombies or invincible heroes. They were condemned men who used their final moments to turn their own deaths into the most terrifying psychological weapon of World War I. If you are fascinated by the darkest truths of our past, subscribe to the channel. We will keep investigating real history because reality is always more terrifying than fiction.